Hello, I'm Heath.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Jake.
And we are Barking Bolters.
We're a collection of guys who have a long history in Warhammer, or a history in Warhammer.
Yeah.
Mine's long, 'cause I'm old, but
A mixed history.
a mixed history, unique, diverse bag. And we're here just to talk about the lore and stuff, and like the characters in it, and the gear in it, and just all the cool nitty gritty of it, because it's something we all really enjoy.
We hoping to be your go-to to learning everything 40/30K.
As long as you like really long tangents and getting ADD crazy perspectives on little things, that's what we excel at, really.
Yeah. Super genuine, though.
Yeah.
Super genuine.
Yeah.
What I bring to the table is I've read the Horus Heresy in, completely, maybe a couple other series as well, War of the Beasts, Gaunt's Ghost, yada yada yada. But basically just 30K lore. How my smooth brain works is I have to read everything chronologically. So, and yeah.
So he's kind of late to the party, mostly. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, and I love the Emperor.
Okay.
Nice.
Well,
I'm Heath, and I love the Emperor. And I'm proud.
I'm Luke, and I don't love the Emperor. The Corpse Throne is kind of a shitbag. And no, I mostly just focus on the Xeno stuff and some of the Chaos stuff, and I'm pretty new to the hobby, so I'm still catching up to everything. But yeah,
And I have a long history, started playing tabletop in 2007 approximately, jumping in on I think the tail end of 4th into 5th edition. So pretty early start in the game and in the lore. And like back when I started playing, like the Horus Heresy as a series like didn't exist. It was like a historical footnote that you'd find inside of like old codexes and stuff. And I've stayed pretty active throughout the years in the Warhammer hobby as a whole. Too many Space Marines, too many Chaos Space Marines, and like piles of Necrons at this point. But yeah, I try to bring kind of like a background knowledge and extensive knowledge that I have accumulated over the years, as I am ought to do, as some sort of like word goblin, but that's what I do with my time. And together, we're here to go hopefully talk about this exciting, cool, vast universe that we all really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So today, we're doing a little bit of a book review. Our good friend Heath has put together a lot of bullet points. We're going to be talking about the first book in the Horus Heresy, Horus Rising. Describe this segment you're doing for us today.
So yeah,
Heath?
what are we doing here, Heath?
Well, I had a little thing going, but this
We
interesting
screwed
to
it
work
all
better.
up for
Yeah.
you. So nice, perfect. That's what I was aiming for here.
Series is actually, I'm thinking it's going to be called the Ogryns Guide to the Heresy.
What's an Ogryn, Heath?
Ogryn is a big dummy. They're sweethearts.
Oh.
They're sweethearts.
Nice.
They're like, everybody loves them. Commissars love them.
Commissars love these guys.
But they are simple. And I feel like
Simple Jack kind of simple? Or?
essentially,
I hear that goes over really well in Vietnam.
simple Jack. But yeah, I feel like the 40K universe, and especially the Horus Heresy, is just like beyond the level of complexity of Game of Thrones. And I know the books overwhelm me with like the just god awful amount of characters at the beginning of it.
It's so much to keep track of.
Yeah, back and forth.
Yeah, it's a deep and complex, like historical fiction universe that's got more history than like most other equivalent sci-fis. I mean, there are some really good ones out there, but over the years, Warhammer, especially the Horus Heresy, has grown so much. It's become this like vast and extremely interesting thing that we're all here for.
Yeah.
Why we're here.
You thought Star Trek or Star Wars was bad? Think again, bucko.
Think again.
And of course, Black Library, like how they wrote it, it makes no sense. They went from like, Warhammer's been around like 30, 40 years or something like that.
Yeah.
They started like at 40K, and then they like...
Well, they
Working
started
backwards.
Yeah, at 40K with like Rogue Trader, and then there was like...
Which is kind of like, that's like 40K proper, right? When we're like in the current story, we're in like the
40K takes
second millennium.
Yeah, 40K happens. Like old Rogue Trader was like M40 like M40.
40, right.
Like
Which means millennium.
Wait,
Oh,
does that
yeah,
mean
40.
39K or
It would have been like
M41?
It would have been 39 into 40
Okay,
was like
gotcha.
Rogue Trader.
Gotcha.
But like Rogue Traders have been around since the Heresy, which is the 30th millennium, and then all the way up till now. And then obviously it grew from there, including things like Chaos Space Marines, Xenos, Heretics, Demons, all of that. And yeah, it's very, very interesting history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to it, they started at 40K, bounced back to 30K to like this is how it started, and then while they were writing those, they went beyond 40K,
Yeah.
and then started writing like the Siege of Terra while they're still leading up to it. It's just kind of a cluster.
It's very
Yeah.
interwoven.
Everything's being written all at once.
Which is for me with my smooth brain, I had to read from the beginning to now just to make things make sense, and thankfully with my job I have a lot of free time to listen.
I think you're not
We
supposed
were
to say
talking
that.
about that.
Yeah, I mean I'm working, but I'm also by myself.
Oh yeah,
We
listening.
promised Heath is working his hardest.
Yeah. It's like I have to listen to something besides the voices in my head.
This is
There's
true.
too many.
Yeah, we all listen, and all the voices like it.
They all sit together in a circle and we listen as we work, and it's a good time.
The warp has interesting influences in Heath's body. It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship going on here.
Yeah. Most of my warp
kind of
energy
demons-
comes out with body hair.
Yeah, what kind of demons you got there? It seems probably Nurgle, right? You kind of disgusting human being piece of shit.
That's kind of it's a little harsh.
I think Nurgle is kind of trying to make its way with how gross like the job sites are sometimes. I do construction, by the way, and Nurgle should
thought we
be
were talking
a
about that.
porta potty company.
He said it. Now he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're gonna think like my job. Like, what does he do? That's so disgusting.
Shit in porta potties.
Yeah, that's my job.
I'm gonna make
You're a porta potty shit tester.
Yeah, you ever go to the fair and you're just like, what's wrong with this porta potty? That was Heath's job. He made it that way.
I stamp it
his
every time I leave.
The big seal of approval.
Yeah.
I just imagine you running like a Yelp review site. With
I
the
thought
porta
about
potties
that.
in their locations.
I thought about that. Having like
Why have you thought about that?
Because I was like thinking about like we always looking for some place to go to the bathroom, and it'd be like have like an app or something that like rates things like this is 10 shits out of 10 or something like that.
I could see.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see use case.
Or
for
like
that, for
you
sure.
go to a gas station, like don't go in there, like never with paper and whatnot.
Can you see where I've highlighted?
Yeah.
I think you should start from there now. Not
Hell
to
yeah.
like segue out of the toilet paper talk, but go ahead and start from there and like
Segue.
kind of give us like a little bit of the synopsis of what we're going
Hell
to
yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Ogryns Guide to the Heresy. This series will be something of a book review slash supplemental reading resource. In a thought that you might be reading this yourself, or maybe like you're trying to summarize the books that you haven't read to the ones that you have.
Yeah.
Or maybe
like
you're
if you don't have time to catch up or whatever. You
Yeah.
just want to get the cliff notes. kind of thing.
yeah, because not everybody's blessed with the amount of time to listen as I am.
Hour and a half podcast versus like 17-hour slogfest of
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
putting
a book-
down-
a good book, but
Putting
like,
down a book every other day,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's a little costly, but yeah, it's a lot of money. But yeah, trying to help people out because I want to talk about all this stuff, and this is
Yeah.
a perfect opportunity. We're gonna try to pinpoint all the key events of the books and elaborate on them. We might bring up stuff that's not so important just to kind of like keep the flow going, but we won't make you remember that. We'll touch on most characters that are relevant to future books too, because in the just like Game of Thrones or something in the 40K universe, like 9 times out of 10 characters aren't going to make it to the next book. Everything dies. It's grimdark.
Yep, that's a stalwart theme
Yeah.
for sure.
If you fall in love with the character, it's gonna hurt.
Enjoy the time you have with them and remember the fond memories.
Yeah. Just don't read ahead or something. My opinion, I love most of these books. There are books that are a little more exciting than others, but like, I
what did you say about salamanders?
nothing. If you like the salamanders are cool, but there's a lot of books about them, and they're fucking yeah, I don't want to say any spoilers, but sometimes they get a little old. But regardless, the books are cool. But there's a lot of shit. Like we said, there's 20 legions, and each one of the legions has or yeah, maybe
20 legions?
Remember
I thought
20?
that was heresy.
Yeah. There's all these legions, tons of planets, tons of ships, all got different names, and every ship's got crewmen that they want to give you all the names in the front of the book.
nitty-gritty of
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
this,
Black Library is not good at not naming
Like,
things.
who was the guy that ran the Vox or the radio?
Who
And,
gives
like,
a shit,
who
though?
the fuck cares? Like, this guy, handed a fucking slip of paper to Horus one time. Let's list them.
Yeah, I feel like 40K books are really good, and some of this is like kind of fun as like a slice of life kind of thing, but they're really good at wasting your time going like, okay, the admiral commander guy is super important, telling this group to do this one thing, and it pops into the brain of one of those people for a second before they die 30 seconds later and goes through their entire life story.
Yeah.
You're like, this is interesting, but also has no meaning for the plot whatsoever.
It's like Black Library's like, hey, Dan, you got to put 800 pages in there. And he's like, well, fuck.
Danny's just like, easy, nerd. Like, fills that shit up. No, he's not the only one who does it. There's some other
No.
authors who like.
All of them do it.
Aaron Dembski Bowden
He
definitely
actually
does it.
he does it a lot, but I always find it to be like it gives you just enough to humanize and empathize.
I do like it when he does it, yeah.
Because I was reading, I'm not going to be able to say it right, but the Space Shark novel, I'm still reading it because I'm slow and I don't give myself any time. But there's like the bit where like they're on the bridge that like pitiful, poor, sad, many feelings for these boys. They're on a penal ship heading out and Night Lords attack them. And if you know anything about Night Lords, you know this goes really well. It's like a party. It's a good time. Everyone has fun. No, everyone.
Sarcasm.
Yeah,
Like
everyone
those-
dies
yeah.
screaming horribly, and dudes
Yeah.
are like dropping out of the rafters.
Fat Flash,
It's a good time.
Crucifixions,
But, like,
all that fun stuff.
You get into the head of one of like the bridge officers, and you're just like they're trying to get like their little Vox servitor to do things right, and like they hear like a squeak behind them, and they turn around. It's like a Night Lord, and he's just like gasp, and but like before that you're like in his head, like what he's thinking about, and like like where he thinks he's gonna be going, what he's gonna be doing. It's a cat.
What are the cats? Yeah, sorry.
That's kind of
Tell
funny.
us to shut up.
Yeah, like,
Trying
shut
to
up,
sleep.
I'm taking a nap. But no, it's just I think the authors do it pretty tastefully. I do recall in the like Eisenhorn and Ravnor omnibuses though, Dan Abnett was just like, let's give everyone a name, a last name, a nickname, a title, and an occupation, and I'm going to use all of these little bits interchangeably.
That's rough.
And then you're going to learn they have a nickname as well inside the
Yeah.
book. And I'm like, dear Lord, Dan, take it easy on me. I
Yeah.
can't keep. I had to get like a slide, like a note card with people's
Yeah.
names as I'm reading. I like cross-reference so I would know what they were doing.
That's what the good part about like audibles are, is like, they try their best to do a different voice for each character.
Yeah.
So it helps so much.
That's so helpful
God,
for me.
so
That's
good.
true.
And you don't have to worry about them saying like, this guy said, because like, you don't have to put that in
Yeah.
there if you can clearly hear that it's the mechanical guy talking. And
Yeah.
whatnot.
My favorite part so far about the Night Lords omnibus is when it switches over to like a victim's point of view, because it turns it from like, oh, I love these guys, they're the protagonists and stuff, and then you're like, oh, this is a horror story told from the monster's perspective.
Yeah.
And it's fucked.
Just a disclaimer, I still highly recommend reading these books, even if like,
Definitely.
Yeah. If you have the time and the availability, all of these
Worth
novels are 100% worth reading, and they're worth your time.
yeah. And of course, since we are nothing but flesh and we are flawed, I imagine we're going to miss some things.
Yeah. We're going to try not to, but we will.
Yeah.
I
Inevitably.
I listened to each one of these books twice and try my best to get everything of importance. But again, like, smooth brain. Try my best. All right. The book starts like every Warhammer book.
Well, what
with
book is this?
Horus Rising, as mentioned earlier, the first in the Horus Heresy series. Opening quote: "I was there when Horus slew the Emperor," which is cryptic as fuck, and also, super foreshadowy. I found another good quote too. The difference between gods and demons largely depends on where one is standing at the time, by Primarch Logar.
He's one to talk, I guess.
Yeah.
Do we have an indication? We had talked about this a little bit earlier about who says the first quote.
Oh yeah. It doesn't say in the book, but it is Garviel Loken, a command or not a commander.
Yeah.
He's part of the Luna Wolves.
If we could take a second right there, I'm gonna go. Bert's having a nightmare, I think.
Oh God. Where were we? Second quote with Logar. Yeah, just simple enough. Most of these quotes are like shit that we know from nowadays, but more old English and fancy. But yeah, what you see as a god, someone else sees as a demon, kind of thing. It's all dependent on where you're standing on.
Really trying to emphasize right and wrong is often extremely subjective in the universe.
Yeah, in Warhammer. Yeah.
I mean, true all over, but like double true in Warhammer.
Yep.
There are no good guys.
Debatable.
Okay, well.
Then it moves on to the first actual story bit in the book, where it introduces Loken, which is Garviel Loken, captain of the 10th Company of the Luna Wolves, which will be our main legion. And
What's a legion?
a legion is a grouping of space marines that fall under a specific primarch or leader.
On average, how many Space Marines are in a legion, so we don't confuse people with like Roman numbers?
I don't know, Jake, how many, since you have that in your brain?
So the average legion is approximately 50,000 Marines. This is standard across. It's like the average. Like the Ultramarines have over 250,000 Marines in their legion because they're huge. Some legions, like for instance the Iron Hands and I lied. Raven Guard. I don't know where I was going with that. Raven Guard have a small amount. World Eaters would have a small amount, like smaller, like 20 to 30,000 rather than the 50. A lot of them averaged out around 70 to 80. I know like the Word Bearers were in the 80,000 range at the start. Some legions would recruit better than others and have more guys on hand. Other legions would be stuck in, like doing big grind work. So that does actually include the Iron Warriors. Although they stayed pretty consistent at 60,000, which is impressive considering Daddy's issues.
The other part of that goes into that is like, for the recruitment side of things, is like the health of their gene seed, right?
Yeah,
How Warriors had a really stable gene
Yeah,
seed.
because like the Space Marines in general are indoctrinated and physically changed through a ton of processes, but like depending on their gene seed, which comes from their Primarch, like it can be not a good process.
Look at the
And,
Emperor's
like,
children.
Your success rate could be like 10%.
Yeah, I was gonna say like more so than the Emperor's Children, like Thousand Sons, Space Wolves. Like there's a couple where it gets like
I mean,
Ooh.
Blood Angels are.
Well, that actually at first it was pretty okay. They did have some issues with it, but definitely after the events of the Heresy, the Blood Angels rather, their gene seed got extra flavorful, we'll say, and now they have lots of fun problems in the modern era. Air quotes modern era of M41999.
Are you Horus?
Huh?
Are you Horus?
Are you? Ooh!
Murder!
Yeah. They're a little schizo, and they never really like get over the fact that they see visions of the death of their Primarch. They constantly thirst for the blood of human life. And
Just casual good guy vampires.
yeah,
right?
casual good guy stuff. It's like that joke where like the news reporter is asking like the Blood Angel like, "How did you win the day, mighty Space Marine?" And he like looks off in the distance and it shows him like eating a Tau alive, and it slaps back to him. He goes, "The Codex Astartes." It's just like, yeah, that was fine. Definitely chill.
But yeah, it's book introduces Loken and Tarek. Loken being, like I said, 10th Company. Luna Wolves are the 16th Legion of Astartes, usually white armor, wolf over moon symbol. And Tarek Torgadon, captain of the 2nd Company of Luna Wolves. These names will be butchered.
There's normally like 10 companies in a legion, right?
Yeah. In order from 1st to 10th in importance. I mean, there might be more.
There's of course exceptions. We know the Ultramarines had at one point 25 companies.
Yeah.
Which is a lot to say the least. You know what? I think the Ultramarines might have had more guys at one point.
They're big boys. But yeah, Torgadon's he's a pretty silly guy. Always a joker, lighthearted, which is odd for an Astartes. You know, being that like they're just macho, fucking murderers.
Hypno
Yeah,
indoctrinated.
have a guy that actually jokes around. It's
genetically
weird.
engineered to be loyal.
Yeah.
You'd think, have a guy who's jovial and bombastic is unique.
And they're just Loken and Tarkin are kind of like Loken's telling the stories of the recent battle that they had and going over the loss of life because they killed a lot of regular humans, which they seem to kind of have like a negative vibe about, which is again odd for an Astartes. But they're like
Yeah, they don't usually.
kind of regretting. They're like, hey man, we did a lot of kind of messed up shit. But that's how Loken is seen as like an exception from the typical Space Marine.
Okay.
The War Master title is introduced briefly that Horus has.
What does that mean?
It means I think it introduces it further along in the book
Okay.
as well.
Gotcha.
It introduces the Emperor briefly, which is the king of all mankind. Basically,
The emperor of all mankind, as it would be.
yeah, president, whatever you want to call it.
He has a title. It's emperor.
For the people that don't know, just he's in charge and he's fantastic.
Well,
But it went into like his method of universe control of like illuminating
Yeah.
and like the Crusades and stuff and like
To abolish the superstition and the primitive belief systems of a lot of these worlds, and to replace it with the wisdom and the knowledge of like
the imperial truth.
of scientific
Hell yeah.
advancement, the abolishment of, like I said, these like spiritual and like described by the emperor often like primordial hedonistic belief systems. Really, he was crusading partially against like to unite humanity, but secondly to try to abolish like these cultural religions that would often secret be like playing into the powers of chaos and like the demons and the gods that dwelled on the other side of the immaterium. Not to like get out of hand, but
yeah, it introduces all that because like this book starts with they're trying to take care of some bad humies.
Yeah.
Because like they're trying to find all the humans that escaped. Didn't really escape, I guess. They left Earth for an
during
old night.
the great colonization efforts, there's like a lot to unpack there, but like humans are spread across the galaxy and haven't had contact with Earth or Terra for what, like 4 or 5, 6,000 years.
It's been a while.
It's been a bit of time,
least, yeah.
at least, and they've all like a lot of these cultures have developed into very unique cultures compared to that on Terra, and like sometimes when the Emperor's heralds come knocking, they're like, hey, you want to join the cool team? They go, no, thanks, I'll pass. And they're like, are you really sure? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm sure. And like, what if we had to fight you? And they're like, let's fight. And it's like, oh, now we're fighting.
Have you seen our guys?
Yeah.
No, why?
Yeah, the Imperium's not good at taking no for an answer in general.
Just one drink. Just one drink. But yeah, it goes over that. War Master is just Horus's title again, since Emperor went back to Terra, but we'll get into that later. They send an equerry to False Terra, which is like, Horus's number one guy. He sends down there to make, contact and be like, hey, we bring the light of the Emperor, like, join us. And nice guy. And he sends Sejanus, who is, like, Horus's, love child. Looks just like Horus, because Horus loves himself.
Sejanus. That's not
Yeah.
how I'd pronounce that if I was just reading it.
How would you say it?
Sejanus.
Sejanus. Sejanus.
Gee, it's Sejanus.
Full name is Haster Sejanus.
Sejanus. Oh my gosh, his name
He's
is
the 4th company captain, favorite of Horus.
favored. Nice, good for him.
It was good for him for a little bit.
What is False Terra?
It's
Where is False Terra?
I've never heard of it.
How is False Terra? No, legit though. I don't actually know where that is.
I don't know. What
location? I don't know. Somewhere in the universe.
In the galaxy.
Like
Milky Way.
this whole planet, like legit, like this guy names himself like Emperor of Terra. Like
so he knows everything about like the Imperium and just like
he doesn't know about the Imperium too much because like they just found him. But the
Well, how's he calling himself like?
I don't know. This dude legit. We'll go into it, but like it is after rereading everything because I've to the reader I've read the Horus Heresy or listened, I guess, which took a bit.
Just a bit. Just a couple. 100 hours.
Yeah, a little exhausting sometimes, but yeah, like rereading it is enlightening because like the amount of foreshadowing and whatnot that they put in the beginning is not so. But yeah, this whole planet it's like weird for them because like the opening quote says, "Horus to the Emperor," which is again foreshadowing, but also kind of like goofy. But yeah, he sends Sejanus down there, who, surprise, surprise to the Luna Wolves, is murdered.
Sad.
And then they like, okay, let's try a second time. And he sends Malgahurst, which is also known as the Twisted for his personality-wise. They sent him down
Is
here.
it because he's a fun, nice guy?
No, this dude doesn't give a shit about anybody else's opinions of him, which whatever. But yeah, he gets also murdered. So Horus is like, should I send a third? I don't think it'd be a hard decision. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, more shame on me. Fool me 3 times, like that's thrice the shame. But Horus wants to be seen as a good guy and not prone to violence. Even though the War Master title, like Horus is very aware of like the political game as within the legions and whatnot. So that's why he tried twice to let the Falsies surrender. Be like, hey, we're the nice guys. We're not going to come invade you first. We're going to try to, you're humans or human offspring. So we're going to try to bring you back. But yeah, they didn't. So Horus decided like, hey, now you're getting the fucking sword. And you're introduced to the god machines that are Titans. And they're sitting down. So you have skyscraper robots getting shot down on your planet, and you're probably rethinking all your decisions that you just made.
Yeah, just enough to shit your pants.
Yeah, it is. I wish we could throw some photos in here, but like the scale of how big a Titan is just absurd.
Yeah, what's the Jesus statue in Brazil?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
The Christ the Savior statue,
Yeah,
big outstretched arms.
That's the size of like a warlord Titan.
A warlord?
Yeah.
They're 44 meters tall, approximately. There's a lot of like many things we'll bump into. The farther away we get from 30K into 40K, consistency and scale is
It means nothing.
fluid.
Yeah.
There are some people who are out there claiming that a Warlord Titan is 133 meters tall, which is large, to say the least. Like, unbelievably, like, it's pretty big. A 44-meter tall robot would be very large. It's not quite as big as some people might imagine. Like,
it's a lot smaller than you think.
But it's still, like, for a land vehicle that's bipedal, it's like
it's
not to, like, crisscross dimensions or anything, but, like, typically, like, mecha and other mechs and other universes cap out at, like, 14 meters.
Because it's like a single pilot.
It's one man piloting it, but, like, a Warlord is 44 meters. So, like, think, like, not to, like, get in trouble, like, the Gundam, the original Gundam or whatever, RX-78, is, like, I think 14 or 15 meters tall. He's a pretty tall boy. It would be approximately 3.5 of him standing shoulder on shoulder to be the height of a Warlord.
We're thinking like Pacific Rim kind of height.
A little bit bigger actually than Pacific Rim. The Jaegers in there are about 30 to 35 meters. They're huge for a mecha in a city to be like boxing people. That's pretty damn big. But then like a Warlord is pretty big. There are bigger Titans, there are smaller Titans, and there's all sorts of stuff. But like to have a Titan Legion get deployed on your world is kind of like.
Right.
Can you counter 100 giant robots? It's like, if you can't, you lose.
I mean, if you think about it, like the main thing that helps me keep the warlords like grounded is like a piloting crew of 3, and then it's like usually like 5 to 10 Adeptus Mechanicus adepts like running throughout the legs and the other stuff, like keeping shit running.
Typically, mostly in the core, monitoring the plasma reactor.
But it's not that many people.
They have gunners in the knees sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sitting on their kneecaps shooting, heavy bolters out and stuff which is nuts because people try to climb up.
Right.
Stupid.
Well, but that's the only way to take them down. Right?
Like,
that's
the only classical scale of Titan larger for the Imperium, it's important to denote that, is the Emperor or
Imperatus.
Yeah.
No, what is it called?
Imperator or something like that.
Yeah, Imperator.
I mean, there's one bigger that I think we discussed earlier.
Yeah, but that's like
But-
contentious as heck.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a couple now that have popped up in thanks to the new Titanicus game. There's the Warmonger class. It's bigger than a Warlord, and by a bit, it's a very large robot. I'm wondering if that's going to be like the halfway point between a Warlord and an Imperator Titan, mostly because the Emperor class Titans are like, people describe them as like walking fortress. You see them actually in cover art of a lot of the books, and they're literally like a castle on the back of a giant stompy robot.
Right.
And like in the books, like tank squadrons will be parked in its legs that like drive out off of its like toes and stuff. And you're like, what? Like its legs are like fort towers. And it's just like this massive, like the scale of it is kind of disturbing sometimes because you're just like, how big is this?
But again, it's like it's so hard to grasp because Warhammer is.
And like to be clear as well, Titans are not the largest thing in Warhammer by even a little bit.
I mean, void ships in general are like
monolithic.
ridiculously huge compared. I mean, they're like your smaller void ships are like what, a kilometer long?
The small, like a traditional void ship, like a small like private void ship would be a couple 100 meters, but then
But
like
a couple 100 meters is still
a ton, like a modern day aircraft carrier.
a couple 100 more than
Yeah, 100
Warlord
meters, like,
Titan.
is a football field, essentially.
Yeah.
For all the people that,
Well, 100
don't
meters
get...
is a football. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like, we are in America and meters are confusing.
It can be.
For the people that,
Yards. I mean,
yeah, it's a football field. 100 meters is a football field. So if you have a couple hundred of them, 100 meters is like, I always think like when we played football, the track was right next to it. So the 100-meter dash is most of the field. So
Yeah. But then so scale in Warhammer just goes up and up and up and up to the point where like some battles happen over a ship that's just like dozens and dozens of like kilometers long, and the ship can't physically be like, there's too much mass for it to be blown up, so it just becomes this like wreck, like basically just a meteorite made of like a dead ship that just orbits in space. Very exciting.
it is. Titans is sent down in the Luna Wolf's attack.
Rip.
And the killing machine that is in Astartes is introduced, and it kind of goes off on what makes them special, which is just an opportunity for the author to simp over Astartes.
Simp over Space Marines.
They're so big and all this kind of stuff. Their killing power, their triple heart or double hearts and all that kind of stuff.
Multiple lung,
Yeah.
like
lungs,
3 lungs,
yeah.
2 hearts, extra kidneys, powerful liver, brain augmentations,
spitting
acid.
Which I say to, like,
hilarious.
you should read or listen, because like no matter how we describe, we're never going to be as good as
As like the professional authors.
Dan's getting paid to do this.
So genetic perfection, as far as war machines in a biological sense, as far as humans can get.
I don't know if I'd call them perfection. I would definitely call them they're definitely they've been Frankensteined to be really good at murder.
The next
Yeah, sure.
step.
I think that's a fun thing because there's only so many other sci-fi franchises that even touch in on the cranked amount of tech that goes into one Space Marine. One Warhammer 40k Adeptus Astartes is it's very impressive, and really on the infantry game, very 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 few other sci-fi franchises even get close.
Yeah, I always describe them as if Gears of War made it into space, because just the level of brutality in Gears games and stuff,
yeah.
and how grim darky and.
Well, I think there's actually a lot of cross inspiration going on there.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Gears of War really absorbed some stylings of certain things chain blade weapons.
Oh, yeah.
And large caliber things, pauldrons.
I can't remember what the guns are called, but they might be similar to bolters.
They might have
I can't remember right
I
now.
feel like they are. I can't remember.
Something like that. But yeah, that or if Star Wars, everybody had roid rage. If everybody was drinking Bane juice.
Yeah, if everyone drank Bane juice and was running around trying to do shipboarding, it'd be pretty close.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just
not really big.
They're awesome. Which is weird because the Astartes armor is kind of basic and stuff.
It's pretty good.
It's big and bulky and stuff. I mean, when you see it, like you think of other games where everybody's got like these cool like knives and like tech stuff on there, and like Warhammer, the Stardies just have like
slabs of
Yeah,
steel and ceramite to protect them.
tank, man. They don't need that. They have like a gun that shoots,
We'll get into we have a special coming up on the arms and armor of Warhammer, and I have a bit about bolt guns and how
Hell yeah.
cranky these are. Because a normal bolter is like a 70 caliber projectile.
Just like
It's pretty big. Like like everyone knows like the 50
people
BMG.
have trouble shooting a 50 cal and not like
Yeah. Well, that's also like
knocking
a
on
full
their
scale like
ass.
rifle, right? Like the
Right.
the bolter is like, imagine you made a big angry Uzi.
Yeah, like an MP5, but
Yeah.
you're like
We were shooting 70
Shooting
cal
70.
rockets at people.
yeah, bullets the size of your fist, right?
Oh, they're actually it'd actually only be about like this big.
oh, shit.
Oh
Isn't 50 cal like that big?
no,
I imagine the bullets as like a cinnamon twist size. You're shooting that maple bar out.
no. There's actually this fun juxtaposition thing that goes on where, like the scale of a bolt gun and like the front hole that we've always seen is radically. That's like a 40 millimeter hole. Like grenades you could stick a grenade in the tip of that. That thing isn't actually like the barrel. That's like a breaker shroud that goes out over. It's like a flash suppress. The actual bullet's only like a 7.7 cal shot, right?
Okay.
So it's like it's only a little bit bigger than like a 50 cal bullet. But like the difference in Warhammer Land is it's like a diamite tipped like depleted deuterium core rocket propelled explosive. So like
It's just a mini RPG
yeah, it literally
that you're firing at full auto.
yeah, just miniature. Yeah, it's basically just like miniature RPG shells that you just like brap, and someone just turned into like mist.
Yeah.
And like we're going to touch on it later, but like the concept of like anti-space marine weaponry, like a bolter is an anti-space marine. It's like a diamond tipped deuterium cored
Yeah.
fucking bomb. It's
It's
like
the Swiss
piercing
Army
and
knife
exploding.
of guns. It can shoot anything.
oh yeah, bolter. We'll get into that later too. Bolter shells, like the variety, is honestly too big and seems kind of nonsensical because there's a lot of function overlap. But that happens when your military force is literally the size of a galaxy and each group is trying to innovate something. You're gonna get like
And you're fighting like hundreds of different
Horrors.
types of
yeah
enemies.
yeah you're gonna
Nightmares.
you're gonna end up developing similar types of bullets. Like there's a whole thing about like all the variety of seeker shells or like acid bullets. I don't know why you would do that, but you can put acid in a bullet and mess people up.
Edgelord stuff.
Yeah,
Hey, not
suppressed
even
bullets.
my boys, the Night Lords, would do acid bullets.
It's be
That just
blood.
kills them too fast.
It's got blood at the tip.
Yeah, but no, yeah, the Space Marine, the individual Space Marine is a genetically augmented,
Masterpiece.
surgically augmented, and cybernetically and chemically augmented like super soldier, with just like all these like built-in like extra fun redundancies, the capacity to like survive like heinous wounds.
the scariest 15-year-old you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Well, typically, yeah, they are recruited at a young age and like trained and enhanced. Very similar, ironically, to the Halo Spartan program. There's a lot of parallel to the influx of that as well with like the cybernetic augmentation. But then like, yeah, typically a normal Space Marine, well, for sure in like the future of 40K, has approximately like 100 years of experience under their belt before they're even allowed to be in the armor, which is also like fucking crazy.
Yeah, because scouts
Yeah,
die like
yeah.
frequently.
Poor scouts.
Rip.
Scouts as in the recruited.
Yeah, recruited
Yeah.
10th company,
Yeah.
trained up like recruit Space Marines. They have to-
Learning.
The rookies.
Adepts.
the new guys.
They don't got full armor on yet either.
They have armor, but it's not like
It's
powered armor. It's
yeah.
just it's like it's like hardened armor. It's better than like what guardsmen get to wear. Also, we'll go into guardsmen. Testicles made of 7-inch spheres of brass. These guys. Mm-hmm. I would die fighting a single guardsman.
Yeah, they don't give any fucks.
Well,
The honey
some of them
badger.
have to do.
Yeah, they're the honey badger to 30K, 40K.
Yeah, they're impressive.
Which is kind of cool. The next very foreshadowing quote that's in the book after the Astartes are introduced, they're described, in heavy detail, and they say the only thing that can beat an Astartes is another Astartes.
Foreshadowed by our bolter dialogue a second ago.
Yeah. Good job, Dan, with the foreshadowing.
Yeah. The king of the foreshadow, the unsubtle foreshadow.
Yeah.
Chthonia is briefly mentioned as the Luna Wolf's home world, which is like just all gangland essentially, a bunch of mines and gangs. So a lot of people see the Luna Wolves as just kind of brutal gang members, kind of shit, not as civilized.
Not dissimilar to Nostromo with the Night Lords. It's pretty much the same exact thing.
Yeah,
Have
just
mining
above
colonies,
above
like-
ground.
Yeah, the difference is
gangs.
Chthonia has sunlight.
Well,
Is sometimes.
It usually does. It has a visible sun.
I would.
more than Nostromo.
Yeah, Nostromo's just a nightmare.
Literally.
Yeah, we find out Horus is also known as Lupercal. That is his title before the title War Master is given to him.
What kind of meaning does Lupercal have for Horus and for the Space Marines?
I mean, it's just like
Isn't that just his last name?
I don't think so. Oh yeah, Horus Lupercal, and I always think like a lupine is like
Playing
canine
into the
dogs.
wolf idea of the
Yeah, definitely.
Luna Wolves.
It is just something they could yell before they run forward.
Yeah.
Everybody wants some kind of catchphrase.
Do the Ultramarines yell "girly man" as they charge for?
Reboot her. He's sick.
He's thick!
Reboot her. They probably yell something cool. Blueberry-ish.
I'm Discount Roman.
No, we like to shit talk Ultramarines thanks to your boy Matt Ward,
Yeah.
who penned the Ultramarine 5th edition codex that said the infamous and false quote, all Space Marines aspire to be an Ultramarine. And it's just like, lol.
Or if you're Luke and you just, are an edgy chaos boy.
I'm not that edgy.
Bullshit.
No, but
Space Marines suck.
Space Marines are cool.
I've been trying to be better about that.
You don't have to be, dude.
You don't have to be.
I got enough love for him for everybody.
Yeah, no, Ultramarines are fine. They're fine. They're good. They're good men, and they do good work. They just get a weird. What's even the right word? A weird level of unnecessary attention by a lot of people, and it's just like.
I mean, yeah, being a poster boy, that's just kind of like, and like how people get into the hobby and the lore, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's. I mean, it's what James Workshop really has to do, right? Is like just fucking pound down like these are cool guys.
Did you say
just
James
trust me.
Workshop?
Yeah, James Workshop.
James Workshop.
Never heard of James Workshop?
I have not.
He's the man behind the mirror. It's you don't know about that?
No,
His
man.
name is James Workshop. Like that's where the name comes from.
No shit.
Yeah.
Last name Workshop.
Yeah.
Is it like, kind of Americanized German or something like
No,
that?
he's English. It's
James
a UK
Workshop.
based company. What are you fucking talking about?
Nottingham, in fact.
Yeah.
Because workshop to me is like scratching your head, coming over, immigrating to America. Like, what should I name myself? Nothing German because it might sound kind of sketch at this time. So, how about work? He looks around like workshop.
Pulling this guy's leg all the way to Mars.
This is so easy.
He's shitting you, bro.
I'm not serious.
You're not? Fuck. Could have fooled me.
I like how you.
I did fool you.
I really like the commitment you bought into it with. It's very impressive. But
I was like, okay, I guess I'll keep going with it.
sure.
I don't want to be like the uninformed guy.
You just proved
I
yourself
know.
to me.
I read a lot of Horus Heresy. I don't leave the book very often.
That's fair. That's
Yep.
fair.
But my point is, to get people into buying their shit, you got to make something seem like really cool, badass, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just Space Marines in general.
There's a little bit of the codex symptom where the codex describes whatever faction you bought as the best, and that they literally like, given the right circumstances, they could not be defeated. And it's
Yeah,
only
right.
through like bad luck and like ill timing and like the enemy's preparation that they're ever even put on the back foot. And that happens in the Necron Codex and the Eldar
Oh,
Codex
yeah.
and like because you read if you like read the Eldar Codex and it's like a single Eldar like aspect warrior is like has 100 lifetimes of experience and has been practicing with the gun and the blade his whole like it's like the while you studied this I studied the blade and it's like but then like you know.
I think the best like comparison for it is like thinking about like a 6-year-old child and like my imaginary gun kills you. No,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
armor is more strong than your imaginary gun. And it's just back and forth. I mean, that's my favorite part about Warhammer.
It's kind of got that vibe.
It's
to it.
ridiculous. It's so over the top, stupid.
And nothing
like-
is spared.
No.
Everything can fucking die.
Yeah.
Everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Except for Gaunt.
Gaunt and his boys, they're pretty tough.
They can't die. Bolters are introduced, but we will go into that. A little teaser. Jake.
Bolt
has,
guns.
You know, we'll have our own little episode on that. Abaddon, his Justarians are talked about and show up wearing all black.
Specifically, Ezekiel Abaddon.
Ezekiel Abaddon.
Far future War Master of Chaos,
Mm-hmm.
and very successful.
Yeah, and he is captain of the first company, so Horus's go-to guys, and the Justarian are all clad in Terminator armor, which in the universe is relatively new. That's why,
This grade of Terminator armor is new. This is like, because they're wearing a cataphracti pattern Terminator. This is my nerd showing, but cataphracti pattern Terminator is like high end. Like this is like apex. Like it's like I have a car, but then also you compare it to like Formula One. I don't actually drive a car. I drive a sad gas bag, and a Formula One is like doing these things that my car could only ever like dream of. Terminator armor is like F1 power armor. Like it's like this is the shit. Like you gotta go do something that's like basically a suicide mission. You and your boy suit up in Termi armor. You're probably coming back.
yeah, unless you're stupid and you don't wear a helmet.
Well,
The symptom.
well, then you have plot armor though.
Yeah, where's
so
my
you're
top
probably
knot gonna
fine.
go?
Yeah. On the top of the helmet,
Yeah,
or on
just
the top of the arch.
Cut a magnetic top knot that just comes
Clink.
on.
That'd be pretty good.
But yeah, they show up wearing all black. And they're
Black is a popular color for a Legion's elite guard.
Mm-hmm.
The White Scars. I don't suddenly remember what they're called, but they're really cool and they're Mongolian flavored. They're also in black. The Iron Hands.
Are they immortals?
Yeah, the Immortals. Immortals wear black. All Iron Hands wear black, but then they specifically have like their Gorgon unit or whatever they're called, and they're also in all black.
The blackest black.
Yeah, the Blood Angel or the Dark Angels, their guys are in black. They're also a lot of. It's a theme.
It also because they're all getting set down and whatnot. The apothecary is introduced on the battlefield as doctors. That's just the Legion doctors.
It'd be like field medic.
yeah, and I mean they're warriors as well.
They're like field medics, but their main purpose is to retrieve gene seed.
Yeah, yeah, and
I mean,
they're
they'll
tasked with
try to
saving the
keep
soldiers.
you alive, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like
Essentially, they're just like because your Astartes blood clots incredibly fast. They're just like giving you balms to like, reduce the pain that they don't even feel anyways.
Well, they feel pain.
They'll stabilize. That's what I think they
Yeah.
do. They allow the body to
Yeah.
heal itself, and like if you lose all your limbs, they'll make it so you don't die and you can get robot limbs later. But most importantly, like Luke said, the gene seed is retrievable. And after a while, you start off with
which
one,
is
you
how
go
you
second.
reproduce Space
Right.
Marines,
Yeah.
right?
A
So-
gene seed is there's a lot of dialogue about what is a gene seed. A gene seed is a small cellular cell packet, often described in weird ways, but it is just like a small kind of fleshy. You could almost call it a tumor.
Yeah.
But what it has inside of it is the genetic coding to make and grow the other organs that go into a space marine. And so like retrieving it is basically like there's like bits in there to make another space marine.
And there's finite. You can't like really. I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to get more of them. So you're trying to.
Yeah, the fastest way to
Preserve.
get gene seed is to put it into a space marine, grow this guy up, have him develop all the organs, and then his body will make these new gene seed. Like you put one into a space marine, and their body will make a second one. One lives at the base of their neck, under their collarbone kind of area, like in there. Some people describe it as in the actual, like in the neck, but that would look like
A big
Yeah,
Adam's
they're-
apple.
yeah, like a turbo Adam's apple, like off
goofy
center. But
stuff.
I've always heard it described as being just under the collarbone, and there's one lower down in the chest, close to their heart. And
Yeah,
so
I think Midwinter Minis on YouTube has like a good video that he
I
did
don't like that video. It's
recently.
disgusting.
It is nasty.
It
That
totally
shows, like-
ruins
like
my
what Space
image.
Marines theoretically would look like after all the augmentations.
Yeah,
and stuff,
gross,
and
kinda mutated.
The like the giant. I mean, gene seeds are described as like what?
It's like a
How
tennis
big?
ball or an egg
Yeah.
Well,
or something
people
like that.
describe them as tennis balls, but I'm pretty sure it'd be like the size of like at max like a grape. Like cells are small. Not needing to be said at all, but no, like I know everything's bigger in Warhammer, but like a gene seed could literally be like a polyp, like a tiny little thing, because like it just has to hold enough small genetic information to like make an organ, right?
Yeah.
Well, half these guys like go off of
pardon me.
be like, oh yeah, it's huge. It'll be like a single reference in like the entirety of Warhammer books. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play off of this.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know how
mean,
the authors.
And yeah, we just talked about scale, right?
It's always described a
Scale
little bit
is,
differently.
like-
Some Space Marines have tennis balls inside them that have to be scooped out. Other Space Marines, like a syringe, can pull this thing out. You know, like
Oh, yeah, essentially the tool that they use is like an auger drill thing that just like sucks it out, right?
yeah, it's got saws.
Narcesium or something like that.
Another word that is contentious in the fandom, but yeah, a tool to like extract the gene seeds. Like we were saying, apothecary can either help to stabilize you, fix you, so you can get back up later, or if you've taken too much horrendous damage and you are dead, or be really close to being dead and like maimed, but also not suitably maimed enough to be put into a dreadnought, they'll grant you the Emperor's Mercy, which is getting stabbed in the face by basically a cattle rod.
But it
And then they'll remove and extract the gene seeds, and potentially like some other things if they're able to grab it. Sometimes they'll take a cybernetic augmentation out, like if it's like an eye one. This happens a lot in places where like Space Marines aren't very well equipped. When you need to get equipment off the field again, you pull it out of the guy.
or especially like when we're talking about like 41st millennia
Yeah, with-
chaos. Marines,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
They have no supplies, right? They're a ragtag
Yeah.
band of, you know.
Hashtag salvage.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, to be fair, though, there are Chaos Legions who have access to corrupted Forge worlds and are able to
Definitely,
get
yeah.
like really fresh stuff. But typically, like a Chaos Warband, a very common sight, they'll be like roving and just stealing and taking to like endure. So
Liberating.
that's a word
Let's-
for it.
Yeah, let's call it.
There's a lot of factions who say they're liberating people, but it's the old.
I just mean liberating supplies.
oh yeah.
Borrowing.
No.
We'll get these back. Also, it introduces iterators briefly, which will be more in depth later. They're just like the hype men for the Emperor, essentially, and they get everybody to believe them. They're influencers of the Emperor.
They're 30th millennium influencers.
And then Old Knights briefly mentioned as well, which is just a period of time where like humans left Terra, warp storms happened. So basically space was just super staticky and lightning-y, so they were unable to communicate with each other. So the Old Night is a period where everybody was lost and had to survive on their own or die on their
Yeah,
own.
we can go into that more in depth later
Yeah.
about like the actual like major like historical events for like the galaxy, but like the Old Night was caused not in small part due to the birth of the fourth chaos god Slanesh like thousands of years ago, when the Eldar had, how to describe it, a murder orgy party
Yeah.
with enough drugs to like drown
Party their
worlds.
way.
Yeah. Then, well, it's not like it was one party. It was like the whole culture had been building up. So like the Dark Eldar exist, and then the Craft World Eldar exist. And there's also some like Exodite Eldar. Dark Eldar are a more accurate representation of what the Eldar were before the fall. This is a big tangent. Sorry. The Dark Eldar were like evil, mean. They're into killing and like the excess, which is a big key point in in Slanesh as a character. But eventually their hedonism reached an apex so volatile that it birthed the Chaos God, which sundered real space and the warp and created the Eye of Terror, which also led to a galactic-wide warp storm. So like interstellar travel became like really, really difficult. And like I think the only faction even capable of navigating this environment would have been like the Necrons, since they don't actually use any warp travel technically. But even then, they were all taking a nap. So pretty much no culture could maneuver in this.
This was
environment.
thousands of years as well.
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
Yeah, this is all happening when they're, invading False Terra as well. But then it briefly jumps to the Vengeful Spirit, which is the Luna Wolf's flagship, essentially. This is Horus's ship, the Vengeful Spirit, and it will come up multiple times. It's a big deal.
It's also a very big ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
What's the class of that one?
A Gloriana class battleship,
Jesus.
which is ships are big. We were kind of brushing this earlier. Ships are like kilometers long. An Emperor class battleship, which is like the standard Imperial Navy ship, is approximately what was it? Like 20, 30, no, I think it's like 40 kilometers long. It's a big space boat, right? And it's huge. It's basically like, imagine like,
It's like Rhode Island.
yeah, it's like an entire like moving
Tennessee
like
flying.
fortress ship, right?
Yeah.
And like, but have you ever played some of the Battlefleet Gothic games, both tabletop and PC? They do a very good job. Their scale is super wacky, but they have a good visual representation of what these things like would be stylized to look like. But a Gloriana class battleship is like 50 to 75 kilometers long, like bigger than islands, right? This thing is up in the sky. It's functionally like a mini continent up there, and like the Vengeful Spirit is literally one of the largest void ships that humans have ever built. There are, of course, larger, but they're not as prolific as the
And
Vengeful
even
Spirit.
then, it's like every Primarch got his own.
They all got
big
a
ship.
personal space boat.
People aren't just cruising around in these things.
No, these
randomly.
are. Each one of these is functionally like a work of art.
Yeah.
Like a unique
Yeah.
individual. They're all within like the same class, which is we'll kind of get into that in the future as well. The naval / weapon class system in 40K is as fluid as the scale. Like
yeah, right. It's to the effect of like in real life, like a Koenigsegg car, where it's like, they're all like $15 million cars, but they're all incredibly unique, and
personalized, stylized.
Oh yeah, everything. Every legion's got their own like the world eaters having harpoons. Like no one besides the world eaters is going to do that.
You know, one's gonna put a spaceship with harpoons. Fly me close. I want to hit him with my sword. That's like what?
Man.
I want to lean out the window and slash at their ship.
But yeah, the story jumps back to the spirit where Mercedes Olaton.
Can you say it again?
I will try. Mercedes Olaton is introduced.
Dude, I'm looking at it. It's Mercedes.
Actually,
yeah. This guy's car brand. He's
Yeah.
a Mercedes. It's so cool.
Olaton. He was a documentarist for the Luna Wolves, which is just a note keeper, whatever, for the part of the Remembrancers, which is just like Big E's decision to
they're scribes, right?
they're trying to
Preserve
put
history.
all this stuff preserve history so you can look back and not make the same mistakes,
Right.
And it's propaganda as well.
Yeah, to preserve the history that the emperor wants to push, kind of.
Parts of history.
the good bits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, and we say that as if like every country on the planet isn't guilty of it to a degree,
Oh yeah,
at least.
definitely.
I mean, a really prolific example would be
written
like
by
the
the-
Soviet Union.
Yeah,
Yeah.
written by the victors, right?
Yeah, history is written by those who win, and Space Marines, well, they tend to win.
They win a lot. She has a lot of augmentations to her as well. She has perfect recall, memory, and all that kind of stuff.
Are you talking about cybernetic augmentations,
Yes.
like genetic ones?
Cybernetic. Her head is like elongated back almost.
Nice.
Almost like,
Gross.
the Coneheads thing, but it's like,
I was gonna say like
just
crystal skull, like ancient aliens, like elongated banana heads.
But yeah, she remembers everything with the help of her, external hard drive in her brain.
Yeah, that's kind of a
Internal
blessing
hard drive.
and a curse too, being able
Yeah.
to recall everything.
Well, I mean, Astartes can do that as well, which
To a
sucks
degree,
if you have
to a
like
degree.
a nightmare. Like, well, I can't forget that memory.
Or if you get to witness like the horrors of the galaxy that are to come,
Yeah.
these poor boys. It's like, remember that time that we had to watch that space worm alien turn a guy into dust by aging him through his entire existence in like 2 seconds? It's like, yeah, I'm not forgetting that. That's with
Yeah.
me. That gets to be with me forever.
You can't repress that. But it goes into her interviewing Loken, which is just it happens throughout the books. She's trying to get Loken to open up, and it kind of goes into the odd physique through her eyes of the Astartes, brought up as equine largeness of the face and ribless torso, since their chests are fused,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the bones are,
And
so
then
it's like a plate.
Yeah, they have one, instead of a rib bones, they have a rib bone. It's like a big,
a rib.
yeah, it's like,
Cage is no longer the proper word for it.
it's like
It's a
rib
barrel.
fortress.
yeah. Which does, it's a fun aside that it makes some of the psychosurgery stuff that they do later, like the like
A
implantation.
pain in the ass.
Yeah, because you have to like cut a hole in the bone, take a chunk out, go inside, do a thing, put the bone back, and then like be like, all right, Space Marine's gonna regenerate. The Space Marine regeneration is a fun tidbit aside as well, because like their healing is really rapid in their blood clots, but like they kind of touched on it in that one YouTube video about like the what would a real Space Marine look like.
Yeah.
But how like the rapid healing would leave like very interesting looking scars, kind of
Oh,
frozen in like a form of trauma, which is like, and obviously over time like a Space Marine's body will work on like reducing the scar because you know they have very very good bodies.
Good.
Yeah, good bodies. But like it's actually with intention that they have the kind of like a very prominent scar will appear, but then fade over. Like I say, fade over time. But like Space Marine has to live like 400 years for that thing to fade. But yeah, it's part of it. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah, she's like, you know, everybody has that, what they call that, the dread, the transhuman dread. A lot of people see Space Marines are just like stupefied by
Yeah.
how
I mean,
big
yeah,
and
wouldn't
scary
you
they are.
if you saw like a 9-foot
Yeah.
or whatever
Imagine the mountain
human-
coming at you, but like, you know,
that can move faster than you, but also is like 3 times your size?
yeah, if the mountain was athletic outside of like lifting weights and stuff,
Yeah.
like if he could run like Usain Bolt
Yeah.
and
Because I think the transhuman dread is a good way to describe it. Because a lot of people describe it as like awe of like looking at a Space Marine and being in awe of this like demigod meta human. But like really, when people see them, they realize that like the Imperium is willing to take like drastic leaps beyond.
they're not human, you
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a human form, but no
abhuman.
longer. Yeah, they're abhumans. They're definitely like, but intentional abhumans. You know,
Yes,
like they're definitely
right.
like made to be above, to be better than, and to be like surpassing humanity. Definitely in terms of violence, but yeah, the dread is. I think that's a really good way to describe it. This abhuman dread.
Yeah, the book goes into her body mods as well, like we talked about with their brain, and it just in 40K, like if you want to be really good at looking at stuff, you put some robot eyeballs in. Like people can customize their bodies to be whatever is most helpful to them.
Yeah, definitely think like cyberpunk, but then like just icky.
Yeah, cyberpunk without the
With the
glitches.
aesthetic and the glitch. Yeah, you're just like, you get a new vibe going.
It mentions the Astartes perfect recall, which we already hit on. The interaction shows us how Astartes view most humans as inferior. Because, I mean, at once they were humans, but they are almost like how most militaries are. Like, you are bred and kind of brainwashed to a point. So they're...
Well, Space Marines are for sure
oh,
brainwashed.
they know they're better than most
literally
humans.
brainwashed.
And they even see, like, they call humans mortals.
Yeah. Right.
Implying that, like, they're not.
Yeah, implying they're not when
I mean-
sufficient firepower proves otherwise.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like if a Space Marine was left out of combat, like how have we seen how long one can?
the current record holder for not cheating is and I say that meaning like no chaos bullshit, not being like in a dreadnought sarcophagus, which is a state of suspended animation, and like not using like a body hop technique or something.
Yeah.
Like the oldest living confirmed Space Marine is the chapter master in M41, Dante of the Blood Angels. He, at the beginning, or I should say, at the end of the 41st millennium, going into the 42nd, was 1,900 years old. And he is like, dude, I'm old, I need a break. And they're like, we're busy, Cap, we got to do more. And he's like, oh my gosh.
The nids,
Are
daddy.
Are there any Space Marines that have died of like natural causes?
None that we have identified necessarily. Most Space Marines will get got by something in
Right.
the universe.
Yeah. But, I mean, it could take like 300 or 400 years or whatever, but like.
Yeah, so like I said, Dante is the oldest living who hasn't cheated, but we don't know how long Dante can live. Like he's described. So another tangent. I'm the king of tangents. He's described as having like white hair. Like his hair is turned white. Like he's old. His hair is gray. He's wrinkly. They describe him as having like this like a aged, leathery, wrinkly face and stuff. And he often will hide his face behind the death mask of his Primarch. Spoilers. Just because it's like a status thing. He doesn't let people
Yeah.
see that he's like he's got bags of holding under his eyes that he could fit a battle barge in. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like he talks about it and stuff like in some of his novels and stuff. He'll just be like, like he gets out of bed and he's just like everything hurts. Like my body, like his genetically engineered, cybernetically enhanced, chemically boosted turbo body. He's like, my fucking knees hurt, Dad.
He's got arthritis.
Yeah, he's like, it hurts. But like obviously like the transhumanism in him allows him to push past like these trivial kind of pains. Do I ever wish I had those? And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
but and like later he goes on to perform like wild feats of like speed and strength, even though he's like old. Mostly because he's also like very main charactery, but
Yeah, I just wish I could be in Astartes to eat like, dairy products without any kind of repercussion. Go to a taco joint and be like, yeah, I'll have one of everything. No consequences, please.
yeah, that's for yeah. But
I need a piss break.
all right, you even checked Alexi, have you?
I don't read that shit. You know how like
That's so Apex. That needs to be a quick aside as well that we stick in somewhere that Heath does not read the Lexicanum or the Warhammer Wiki fandom.
that's why when everybody posts videos, they're like, this is what Winter thinks. Like, I don't watch them because I'm an asshole.
Yeah,
Like,
like he does his own research, ladies and gentlemen. Like legit research. He doesn't watch YouTube videos, doesn't read the wiki. He reads the source material and he reviews the source material multiple times. It's powerful.
Yeah.
You're a powerful man.
reading the whole series twice is going to be
You're such a Chad. Yeah, I just read the
Chad.
Horus Heresy twice so I could do this. It's like, oh,
you plebs.
yeah. Everyone else, plebeian. Yeah. What were we talking about?
We're going to pick up. We just got done with
Yeah.
the interactions with Mercedes and Logan, and it kind of briefly touches on Oath of Moments. I think Mercedes saw some Oath of Moment papers on Logan's gear, which Oath of Moment is just like the Space Marines promising that they're going to do what they're going to do.
And it can be like more specific than
Yeah,
that, right?
very
Like,
specific.
Like they'll put like papers on their armor for a specific battle. Like I'm gonna achieve this.
Yeah, they're very
right?
specific.
Yeah.
And they,
I'm gonna find this one fucker.
yeah,
And I'm gonna drive my bolter up his ass so hard
or
that
die.
the Emperor
trying.
will say, "Good job."
Like,
to me."
goddamn. But no, they're very specific, and they will like die for this. Like if they don't come back, and there's multiple occurrences in the stories where like they didn't do what their Oath of Moment said, and they're like, just kill me. Like I can't go back,
Yeah,
kind of
it's,
thing.
you know.
Embarrassing.
It's a proper oath, but like I feel like in normal life oaths are like lifelong, and these are like short-term dividends. You know,
Yeah.
like
This is a promise you can't get out of.
yeah.
It's kind of fun.
But thankfully, after the out of combat interaction happens, we jump right back to the fight, where Dan is the author of the book. When we reference Dan Abnett, he is one of the many writers for.
He's
Warhammer?
also, in my humble opinion, one of the best.
Yeah, he is a
Yeah.
he is a total Chad. Like, I love all of his books. But we back to the fight of the Ludewolf Spearhead trying to gut False Terra and kill the False Emperor. And it makes a good point to describe the brutal warfare that is Astartes combat.
Think very loud, very fast, very like dynamic and explosive.
And he's very good with the adjectives of like all the wounds and stuff. Like something doesn't get shot, it explodes in a mist of blood, or
Yeah.
bones are splintered, or faces are caved in, and like
Yeah.
you just don't exist anymore.
Yeah, again, more reasons to read the book if you're interested.
God, it
in
is.
the
It's
gritty
definitely
details,
it's
right?
definitely a little bit of like Space Marine like word porn in that
Oh
sense.
yeah,
Like which is
absolutely.
not gonna lie, one of my guiltiest secret pleasures that's not really a secret is reading the Space Marine battle novel series stuff, where it's just literally like a single fight plucked out of a chapter's history that they talk about.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And like
is.
Dan Evans actually written a couple, and they're really good. And I think this actually parallels that really well. So
Yeah, the
little plug for a little series I like.
it would be weird because like most of our experience with warfare is like Call of Duty and stuff, where everything's like pretty. We're like, I think there's
In a
certain
sense,
movies
pretty, yeah.
like 1917 that do a good job of like describing it, showing the brutal part of warfare. That like,
Yeah, like Saving Private Ryan,
Yeah.
Fury,
Band of Brothers.
Dunkirk.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of films. Obviously, where you can tell what kind of demographic we are with these
Right.
film names.
But,
But
like, I mean,
it catches part of it. And it
Starship Troopers is also like a very good,
yeah, that's actually
like sideways movement to how
Love
level
Starship
of the
Troopers.
gore in this.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
gore, like the mutilation that takes place, like because being a normal person and having to fight a space marine is like, are you ready to get into like a car accident with dynamite? And you're like, what? Like
Yeah.
shattered.
I would say like a lot of our visions of warfare are kind of warped as well from like either, you know, most of our media is like World War II, World War One, right? Or maybe some Vietnam, like, you know, Full Metal Jacket, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
like the popularized media,
The romanticized
The
war.
media.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know,
I do. Yeah.
Like-
they try to pretty up everything,
yeah.
and America's
Well,
always like, you know,
yeah,
And we
so
have a
it's-
very we have specific time periods as Americans that we are exposed
romanticizing,
to.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
exposed to and trying to. It's like everyone thinks being a knight would be really cool, and it's like really you'd be a sweaty,
No.
stinky,
oh god,
awful.
like blood and guts, like mostly covered in mud. Like I'm potentially exaggerating a tiny bit, but there are obviously like examples of like how uncool it was to be
yeah.
like medieval, and then like to circle back like in Warhammer, like a really good example of like that like the grinding brutal warfare that takes place a lot is like the Siege of Rax stuff, and how like when the Empire shows up, the Imperium of Man shows up to like siege this one planet because they were like turning evil and like they weren't paying their money and like taxes, and like they had thrown off the yoke of the Emperor and stuff. They're like, nope, you're gonna get subjugated because we gotta have this planet, right? And like the Adeptus Administratium, who is basically the record keeper / like resource management group within the Empire, is like, we project this war will take us 30 years and X number of like bullet shells, X number of men, X number of munition, like all they like
Yeah.
tallied it all up, and they're like, our projection is in 30 years we're gonna crack this planet, and that's what they're gonna set down to do. And it's just like being a soldier who gets to go into this on the first wave. It's like, buckle up, buddies. We're doing this for the rest of our
Yeah.
lives.
Your grandkids are gonna be fighting this war.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna be because like, I mean, especially if you're like a guardsman, you're like
That's
life
what I'm-
expectancy is like
It depends on the field you're being deployed to, but guardsman expectancy has been as low as 3 seconds.
There's a literal book. What is
Yeah.
that, like 17 hours or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
It's the first Warhammer book I ever read.
Oh, wow.
Where it's just like, you land on a planet, you got less than a day. And they're like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Like, yeah, you're going to live long enough to shoot the magazine you got, and maybe reload, maybe not. It's
Make it count.
yeah, kind
that's
of
what-
reminds me of
that's
the
what-
movie. What is that? Enemy at the Gates,
Yeah.
where like one guy gets ammo and the other guy gets the gun. They're like, when that guy dies, pick that gun up and put your clip in there and shoot it. And they're like, wait, what?
And then
Yeah.
if you're lucky, go take the guy's gun who you just killed and keep using it.
Yeah.
that's why lasguns are charged in campfires, right? Because like it rarely ever happens.
Oh, a lasgun, literally one of my favorite weapons. We're going to go into that in depth later. I love lasguns. Best gun. Plug it into the wall, leave it in the sun. If you're desperate, pitch it in a campfire. You'll charge up that fusion battery, which is, don't put it in the campfire a lot. Sometimes they explode.
God
It's like
forbid.
lithium batteries, they're just danger pillows.
But like grim dark danger pillows. But no, yeah,
Dark
like
danger pillows.
like the brutal attrition of 40K is that like a soldier's life, like so in Warhammer they often
It's a number.
It's a number. It's a number on a spreadsheet, and like they don't like the Imperium as a whole, this galaxy wide like monolith of just like logistics and like the brutal calculus of war. Like human life is often measured against the dollar value or what the throne, the money's called thrones, the throne value versus that of like an artillery shell. Like that's how they do that's the metric, right? So like guardsmen, like human soldiers, be it in the Imperial Guard, be it in like the Solar Auxilia, be it in like any faction that drafts human soldiers, you're like, you're on the same caliber of like value to them as bullets. Like you got to
Yep.
be ready to like, so like
I mean, especially when like the half of the Imperium probably or more is like fed off of corpse starch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
corpse starch is a fun. You ever seen Soylent Green? It's that. It's just people. Except now it's like common and then everyone knows it and it's fine.
You just
kinda-
cannibalism is just
You shut up and
Fair
eat it
game.
because you're hungry.
Yeah, you're hungry. You eat it. It's protein. It's calories. It's gonna keep you going. Yeah. Quick aside: the normalized cannibalism, like you open a can, like you get like cat food. What's this? Oh, a factory worker probably.
People.
Like it's heavily, it's like bologna, right? It's like heavily processed. It
Yeah,
doesn't look like a person anymore.
your fancy corpse starch is just like servitor, like aged, like live aged meat.
Oh,
Oh, just cut a slice off of 'em. Nice. That's you get that more with
salted
like,
hams.
yeah, you get that more with chaos. Like they like them fresh. Empire likes to try to sanitize it a little bit more, like make it look less like a person, which is like nice, but also like angles into like the brutal dystopia
Yeah.
that is the future.
It's just ground up long.
Hey, we're into
pig, though,
recycling,
still.
right?
Yeah, they're into recycling. But yeah, wrapping up the tangent. Life is cheap in 40K.
Yep. Dan likes to make a lot of references to the false Terra or false Terra to regular Terra. And the invisibles of false Terra are brought up, which is like the guys who killed all the equerries that are shot or were brought, which is just a group of, false Terra's elite soldiers, and they just have like high tech.
Are they just people though?
Yeah.
They're not
I
like
mean,
Space Marines.
They are definitely not Space Marines, but they have killed Space Marines. Like this battle,
Ooh, impressive.
Space Marines are dying.
Wow.
So False Terra,
Well, a quick aside: most battles, a Space Marine's gonna die.
yeah.
That's another quick tangent to make as well. In the world of 40K, a Space Marine is the middle ground soldier.
Bolter's your strength 4 now, baby.
They've always been strength 4.
I know, but they kind of just suck now.
Yeah. No, it's like in the universe there are things that are much stronger and more terrifying than a Space Marine
Oh,
on the
yeah.
battlefield, but there's also stuff that's less scary than a Space Marine, like some schmuck with an AK, which exists. That's a thing, and like Emperor help you when you have to fight a Space Marine with an AK. In contrast, like Emperor bless you when you get to fight him with a fucking plasma gun. You're just like easy. Boo, 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 boo.
But what they try to say is like, for a human, no matter how modified,
Yeah,
for a regular base human
to
to kill a
1v1,
Space
it's
Marine
huge.
is a big fucking deal. That's how you're gonna get some kind of Space Marine respect if you're a worthy opponent. Regardless of these guys are invisible and are kind of hiding, and Space Marines are more like, hey, like face up, let's do
Oh,
this.
I mean, yeah,
Colorful
like,
heraldry.
Space Marines like take a lot from that. Like we were talking about knights and
Yeah.
stuff, like the chivalry
Honorable.
kind of thing.
I mean,
right?
most legions do.
Some
Don't. But yeah, the Invisibles are brought in, and they're compared to the Emperor's custodies, which are his personal
What?
bodyguard. Yeah,
Humans
I mean, just like
compared to custodians.
the false Emperor.
If you guys don't know what a Custodes is,
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
get into that.
His bodyguard are the Invisibles. So like this first
Okay.
battle, which is always weird to me after the reread, is like how Dan made sure to compare like. There's a lot of similar things between False Terror and regular Terror.
Yeah.
But just,
Okay.
slightly different.
just like Dollar Tree discount bin
Yeah.
version.
But
Dude,
they oh, go
even a Dollar Tree Custodes would like
I mean,
butter me up like a sandwich.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like split me open and put margarine on me and be like, that was easy, bro. But no, yeah, like we'll get into what a Custodes is and like some other stuff later on. But a Custodes is like functionally a Space Marine
to a Space Marine.
to a space. Well, like not quite, but yeah, definitely like it's another level of just like human augmentation. But like it takes like 100 years to make a Space Marine. It takes like 400 years to make one Custodes.
And they're like handcrafted artisan, like biological
organic.
masterpieces.
This kind of
Whole Foods
organic
kinda
grown,
stuff.
free range. Yeah, no, it's like a Space Marine is technically like a mass produced super soldier made as fast as possible. Like that's not actually how it is, but like to compare it, it'd be like how a Kalashnikov is made versus like how like a match grade like target rifle would be made, right? Like precision made, super lightweight, like the wild tight tolerances.
Yeah.
That's a Custodes, and like a Space Marine's just like boop, AK, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you slap 20 humans through the process and hope like 2 of them come out. It's just like as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think for custodians, the failure attrition rate is like,
Oh, wait, I was saying Space Marines.
yeah,
But
Space Marine, you throw like 100 people at it, and like maybe like 10 of them come out like
Right.
a 10% failure rate. I think a custodians is like a 1% success rate,
right.
where like,
Yeah, but a lot more thought goes into it because, like, the
Yeah.
Emperor. I think it's bits of the Emperor, like in Custodies, like
Well-
they are.
well, so like bits of the Emperor is like a contentious topic as well. I can get into that later in my conspiracies channel, but conspiracies dialogue. But like, so like, the Emperor doesn't actually use physical pieces of him in the creation of anything. He just has access to a very specific genetic code that he likes to use that people say is the Emperor's, but may or may not be. But conspiracy for later. But no, the Emperor, the Custodians are described as being made with big air quotes, the Emperor's gene seed. Like their physical traits and abilities are based off of the Emperor's physical traits and abilities, which are what all the Space Marines are based off as well. But like we said, a Custodians is a fine wine. A Space Marine would be a box wine.
Yeah.
A Guardsman would be grapes, or raisins, perhaps. I don't know.
Not even in season.
Should we talk about like how everything in 40K is hearsay?
Yeah, heresy or hearsay?
Hearsay.
Okay, there's a strong deviation there.
I mean,
but no, yeah, 40K. You can go into that if you want.
like my point, like you mentioned, like supposedly and like
Allegedly.
allegedly.
I
and
make
all
air
this
quotes.
Stuff, right?
You can't
like,
see it,
We
but I'm
we
all
say
the
that
time.
because 40K is told from the perspective of commoners telling stories, essentially, or
Yeah.
like and nothing is set in stone.
Well,
Nothing.
you have like 6, 7 authors all writing at once. Like stuff's
That
going to
is
contradict
being
each other.
very, very kind to the number. It's a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just so many people trying to. You're going to overlap, and there's going to be some contradictions and
Yeah,
stuff.
the point is like there is stuff that we have read and
then
is immediately disproven by
other
other-
the next
other
novel or
authors,
whatever.
yeah.
But so like that's really interesting as well, because even in universe, the consistency of like information is very suspect, because
Yeah.
the Imperium is at minimum 12,000 years old, right? And it started in a time of myth and of darkness and of like
and
during
we're talking Imperium, not humanity.
No,
right?
just the Imperium under the
Right.
Emperor. Started the Unification Wars, which are
Yep.
shrouded in myth. The history of that has been purposely covered up in part by the Emperor, what was happening, and then like even into like the Imperium of Man, spanning parts of the galaxy. Like it's been 10,000 years. The warp exists. There's even some like quasi evidence of like time manipulation that's gone place, and like mirror reality as well. Like all sorts of crazy stuff also happens. There's like secret branches of the Inquisition that track like time anomalies, like the Ordo Chronalius or whatever, and they're looking for abnormalities in the timeline,
Right.
and they find them. They're just like, what do we do about this? Like catalog it, I guess, and like
in the background it's just Necrons like
Necron, exactly. There are factions in the universe who have the ability to, within a range, manipulate space and time.
Yep.
And like that does not help.
I mean there are Necrons who have dedicated millennia,
Yeah.
many millennia, to their craft of time manipulation and bullshittery, basically.
And like
For
we
shits
don't
and giggles.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just to make Necrons are very vain and
Petty
like political
bastards.
and petty, so they'll do anything to just make their like political agenda a little bit better.
a little bit better. And they've had, again, being an immortal robot. We'll get into Necrons more later. They're awesome.
Yeah,
Secretly one of my favorite faction.
definitely.
But then like other species history is like there's just so much. Like Eldar have been around since like
I mean,
the beginning. Like almost literally almost as long as Necrons.
yeah, right.
And Necrons are, at current date, crazy to think that Eldar are this old too. They're 60 million years old, right?
Right.
It's like they were around in like air quotes the early universe, like early for even modern standards, right? And like Eldar were around. Allegedly, like a version of orcs even existed then.
Quarks, yeah.
Quarks, yeah, quarks.
Cror.
Right.
Quarks.
Quarks? Yeah, no, but so like there's all sorts of cool stuff like that, but like the lore, even like a character keeping track of lore in verse is gonna bump into contradictions, like anomalies of like time not lining up. They're gonna bump into like what appears to be duplicates of people in different places at the same time. Like that happens a lot. Like it's surprising how often that happens. Maybe it's like a Xenos spy. Maybe they've actually been replicated somehow. No, there's two of this guy running around. Maybe, who knows, right? And then again, to kind of cap this little tangent of like how inconsistent like history is in the lore, the parallel universe of chaos of the Immaterium is a swirling, timeless void. That's not right. Vortex of raw energy and emotion.
Hell yeah.
Like,
That's metal, baby.
yeah. So like, anytime you go into the warp, you're literally like a Geller field flicker away from like reality bending.
If you break down the word immaterium,
Yeah.
it spells it out for you.
Yeah,
Right?
it's the immaterial universe.
Yeah.
The non-material. Yeah. And again, time and consistency only exists when matter is solid. And in the warp, like, LOL, what's matter? So
Nothing matters.
exactly.
But yeah, they're mentioned as custodians, and the Invisibles are like the main reason why, like, you know, Space Marines are even having to come down here. Like, they are a pain in the ass. The False Terror does have a lot of, like, you know, static defenses and whatnot, but the Invisibles are what's putting down Space Marines.
Sure. Yeah.
Chainswords come into play.
Classic.
Soon. Yeah, that,
Another iconic weapon.
yeah, they have like a situation where like Loken and Nero, which is, you know, Nero Vipus is basically Loken's go-to guy. He is sergeant of the Locasta Tactical Squad, 10th Company. But yeah, they're like trying to go in and stuff. People are dying down corridors. They're like, we don't know what's up there. Ends up being like just an unmanned turret that just blasts and plaster, man. Like every time you step in a certain location, just peppers everything with, you know, in the Warhammer universe, like thousands of bullets.
Yeah.
Thousands of bullets. But they end up throwing like a flare or something like that and taking care of it. They deal with some Invisibles. Because, of course, it
How
goes...
does a Space Marine deal with an invisible?
Some plot armor.
well, are they actually? They're not actually like.
They're as close to invisible as you can get. Their armor is like super high tech and stuff, where it's like it's broadcasting like
So they have like a Predator cloak.
essentially.
That's really cool.
But you know, Space Marines armor is like their lenses and stuff can see like all different spectrums,
Well,
night
yeah.
vision,
Night-
heat vision, all that kind of stuff.
Night Lords have a special thing called Prey Vision.
Yeah,
It's
scare
fucking-
vision.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's as edgy as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
Prey vision activate.
Because
All
Space
they see is
Marines...
heat blurs.
Predator vision.
No, it actually is Predator.
That's so funny.
But that's
End of
essentially what they
statement.
use. They like he looks and he's like, "There's something kind of hazy over there," and Loken, being the, you know, thug that he is, gets it done, and takes care of him pretty well. And it kind of goes into the Astartes' lack of fear and resolve, because Nero gets his
There's a comma there. Their lack of fear and their unshakable resolve.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nero gets his hand kind of fucked up, and it's getting in the way. So, you know, being an Astartes, you know, they're all about like usefulness and whatnot. So this hand's getting in the way. So what does he do? He takes his chain blade and just cuts the fucker off.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't, you know, shoot as well with this thing. So he just cuts off his hand, blood clots, and now he's, you know, a little more tactical.
I mean, augmetics and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they can grow a new hand. Like, it just...
There is the ability... It's not... A Space Marine can't, like, Wolverine a new hand. But, like...
They can put a new one on.
In a lab that Space Marines have access to, like, on board the ship, there's a medical facility where they can vat grow part of his body back.
Yeah.
Is it more common to do that or just get augmetics?
It depends when and where you are. During the Heresy, it was much more common to, like, vat grow
Interesting.
new limbs.
Okay.
Not every Legion did it. Obviously, the Iron Hands would just get an... yeah. Cyborg Space Marines who would think it's hot to be a Space Marine. So they're like, oh no, boss, I paper cut my finger, chops off hand, gets robot hand, clutch, you know?
Oopsie.
Oopsie. But, like, like the Emperor's children were a huge proponent of vat growing
Oh, I'm
new,
sure.
fresh limbs.
I'm sure they just did it for fun.
Possibly.
This
But then,
feels
like,
good.
it does kind of depend on where you are, because it also depends at the time of, like, the individual Marine and, like, what he thinks is a good choice. Because, like, sometimes, like, an Iron Warrior, like, Siege Master guy will be like, oh, I got my leg blown off, so I replaced it with a cyborg leg that has, like, a grounding spike, so I can, like, you know, survive a shockwave and not get tumbled or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
like the shockwave to toss a space would be, like, really big.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, he's up in the ante. And, like, I mean, sometimes they use it as, like, an ability to get, like, a cybernetic augment above a normal hand.
Yeah.
But typically a Space Marine will be like, I'm a freaking Space Marine, just give me my hand back. You know, like, that's plenty dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And I feel like the further into the university, like time-wise you get, the less resources that are available.
Yeah.
So like they're like, we
Absolutely.
can't grow you once. We're just gonna put this.
Yeah, that's actually a really big reason in M41 why, like, Ultramarines and, like, Iron Hands and, like, not Iron Hands, Imperial Fists will, like, they'll get hurt and they'll be like, oh gosh, like, we can't grow. We're in the field and we can't get you a new hand, so you get a prosthetic. And sometimes, like, they're told it's temporary, but then it becomes, like, a permanent thing. Like, they just never get around to being able to get it fixed, you know,
Yeah.
replaced.
It always surprised me that some of those new Primaris sculpts have like the
Cyber
bare
hands.
cyber hands instead
Yeah.
of like armoring them. Like it's been described a lot of the time where you know you get the prosthetics and it still like fits in your power armor and shit. Why are they just? I don't know.
Well, there's a
That's a
whole
tangent,
thing
I
with the
guess.
Iron Hands as well. They'll have prosthetics fitted to them that aren't the size of, like, their meat hand. It's the size of, like, their power armor
Sure,
hand.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
But like, I don't know. You've seen like the
Yeah.
like the new
where they've got, like, normal sized hand holding a gun.
right.
Yeah, that's just a thing because, like, now
why?
it's mechanical anyway. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't bleed. You're not gonna get cut. You can't get sick. Like,
But your power armor is going to be better at protecting that hand than the hand itself.
yeah, typically. I mean, even if the hand is made of, like, adamantium and you put, like, a layer of ceramite on it, you're just helping yourself, right?
Right.
But I don't know. It's a personal thing. Space Marines are obviously in the future and now very into, like, a personal flair.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like that's the cool thing about like I mean, you can consider it like compare it to like Star Wars, like clones versus droids, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like they have an efficiency to them because of their individuality,
Yeah.
right? Even if they are following a codex and all that, right? I
Right.
mean,
To be accurate though, the codex hasn't even been written yet. Space Marines just do whatever Space Marines do right now,
yeah.
It'd be like that.
which is really fun.
Yeah, just a reminder to listeners as well. These first episodes are going to be a little bit longer because we're
just-
introducing you to new terms.
Yeah.
Second episode, like you won't have to worry about what a Space Marine is because you're going to know. Like you're going to know.
If we remember that is.
Which part? Yeah.
Oh no.
Anyways, Loken finally finds the Invisibles in person, slays them, because Loken's a badass. And as mentioned earlier, the Luna Wolf's attack technique is called a spearhead or spear tip thrust, and it's mentioned a few times. And that's just like they want to eliminate the head of the enemy, figuratively and literally,
Yeah.
instantly, because like they think that maybe.
Well, I mean, that is actually like a that tactic comes into play even in, like, the ancient world of, like, modern Earth.
Yeah,
Like,
cut the snake's head off. And then
yeah,
snake dies.
like even like Alexander the Great, one of his big moves was he tried to, like, during his siege against or his battle against King Darius, made this, like, crazy near suicidal, like, lunge to push him and his cavalry and his infantry at Darius, and, like, they got within, like, it's recounted differently. That's another thing. Even in real history, it's, like, a little vague about what happened. Some people say that, like, Alexander got within, like, a spear's length of Darius and, like, was prepared to, like, throw a spear into this guy but got stopped, right? And others say he was only, like, dozens of meters away, but Darius, like, sees Alexander and Alexander looks at Darius and he's like, oh shit. But this tactic is iconic and only amplified by Space Marines. Like, they are really, like, yeah, they're masters of war. Anything anyone's done in the past, the Space Marines are going to do it, and they're going to do it betterer. Betteristest.
Yeah. Right.
That is true. But yeah,
That's a
you're gonna
weird
hear that a
tangent.
lot. The spear tip, because
Spear tip.
me and Luna Wolf's like pulling that shit, and they have a lot of pride in being the tip, no matter what company it is.
Yeah. The tip.
Just the tip, which is again going back to the the references of false Terra being a lot like the real Terra. The false emperor of false Terra actually sits upon a golden throne in his
my
room.
God.
Like he comes in the room and it's like this giant golden throne. They're like,
Yeah.
Of course.
which is cool. I liked it a lot. The similarities and
No,
whatnot.
I think it's unsubtle
fun.
foreshadowing, but to
Yeah.
see this in the first battle of the first book,
Yeah.
just like, and then if you're new to Horus Heresy, like if this is your first experience in it, you're like, ooh, interesting. I've never like that's a really interesting thing. But if you're like in the Warhammer lore, you're just like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't realize this the first time I read through it.
Yeah.
Even knowing 40K lore, but re-listening to it, I was like, oh my fucking god! Like, they're not clever or sneaky about it at all. Like, legit, the false emperor is sitting on a false throne that's made of gold, and it gets even worse because the false emperor has a robed old helper by his throne.
Oh my god.
Like he has a Malcador as well,
Malcolm.
which is just crazy. It's just old guys talking to him and stuff. And they also call themselves the Imperium of Man. And
As they should, right?
yeah, the old guy is trying to sell it that he is the emperor, though. Like Loken gets in there and he's like, "Oh yeah, like surrender and all this kind of stuff," and he's thinking that like maybe this old guy is the false emperor and whatnot, and yeah, he just kind of like throwing these mental gymnastics at Loken. He's like, "Why can't you just leave us alone?" And like, so what? We're different. Like, why do you have to invade us and
Destroy
change
us,
us? And that kind of like hits and impacts Loken a lot too, because Loken is like the space marine who can think things through like rationally.
Yeah.
Like maybe we could leave him to be. Why are we invading everybody? And he's having like a little
Sure.
bit of not maybe you could say doubt. A space marine that isn't like super brainwashed and be like, well, maybe not saying the emperor's wrong, because that would be
But maybe the emperor, like there's a gray area there.
yeah. But he's just like,
And
maybe
Loken
you're right.
can-
Like you
yeah.
guys weren't doing shit. We came in here regardless that you killed 2 of our equerries. You could have been like a little cooler.
Could have been like, no thanks. Politely.
Not just murder, hobo, anything we send down.
Yeah.
But he had some points, and the rope character goes on, and which is just giving Dan more ammo to describe what the emperor is about and whatnot. But before the rope guy could get too far into his stuff, Abaddon's Reavers are introduced, and the Reavers are like, which I guess we should backtrack. Like Abaddon messages Loken earlier, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, like race you to the top," kind of thing. And Abaddon doesn't lose. He's a big boy, and he does big boy things. And he's also
A little bit of a try-hard.
yeah, a little bit.
always
He
been the
is
case,
a tryhard,
yeah.
yeah. But Loken beat him. Loken beat Abaddon regardless of where they landed on False Terra, but he overcame all the shit. Gets there first, and then the Reavers come in on their jetpacks and like, breaking through windows and shit. It's super edgy. And they're like, "Oh, we got this," kind of thing. What's going on here? And they kind of describe some more shit. Loken tells the situation a little bit. And then Loken deduces that the robe figure is not the Emperor, but the Emperor is actually invisible.
The false emperor.
Yeah, he sees a little
Oh,
shimmer.
I was gonna say like, no shit.
Yeah, he sees like a little shimmer. Because they have invisible technology. So he sees like a little fucking like disturbance on the throne, and he's like, "Wait a minute, something ain't right." And he kind of calls him out. Which ends up with the false emperor activating his throne, which blasts most. They're like on a tower because of course the emperor sits upon his tower.
Yeah.
And it just like sends a shockwave out, and like the Reavers are cool because they have jetpacks or whatever. They get blasted out the windows and whatnot. And it just keep on blasting them with power and whatnot. Which you're looking for like somebody to save you because Loken's getting like almost sent off the edge and shit.
Yeah, getting pushed off.
Old
the
Falsey's
edge.
just kind of shaking there, like, or shaking on his chair, like Professor X, just sending out
Yeah.
pulses.
Do they describe this power as like psychic in origin, or is it like
It's emanating from the chair, 100%. So it's like
like
it seems
it's
like
like-
techie.
technology?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
So far, there's not too much psychic or any sorcery
Right,
or anything
right.
that the false terror having so far. But, they're sitting there getting blasted. All of a sudden, Horus pops up because,
Horus
if
the
you
god.
have the money, you can teleport anywhere. And he teleports like a badass. His like the Emperor's trying to, or the false Emperor's sending out all of his shockwaves and stuff, and the Emperor or Horus is just like kind of edgelord standing in the wind. It's blowing his hair back and shit. Just not even being affected. Puts a single shot through the guy's chest,
Nice.
and a single shot is essentially sending like a javelin through the dude. Toasts him.
It's a single bolter shot, right?
I believe so. I can't really remember if I imagine it'd be a bolt gun. Plasma rifle or plasma gun would be a little overkill.
Yeah.
That'd be
Just melt everything. But puts a single shot through his chest. It describes that a burnt corpse is all that is left on the throne.
it could be plasma.
Well, I think it's supposed to
you
foreshadow the.
Yeah,
The-
and the
the
chairs,
Emperor,
electronics,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
are
yeah,
toasted. But
definitely.
the corpse on the throne, foreshadow.
It's kind of
Corpse
fun.
on the throne.
Yeah,
what
corpse
happens if you
king.
take out the middle two words there?
But yeah, and of course, being the cool guy that Horus is, he says, "So will I deal with all tyrants and deceivers."
Oh my god.
Yeah,
What a
so
fucking
a little foreshadowing
Just-
too.
that's
Like
just
any
so
false
over
kings,
the
this is
top.
how he takes care of it.
it's just like it's so like Shakespearean bullshit.
Oh, it's good stuff. But yeah, pretty fucking cool, man. Like, granted, you expect something to come save, and it just shows that like Horus could have been a lot more help if he would have teleported in a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the shtick of all Primarchs, right?
Yeah, definitely. They show up for the glory.
Which kind of also tangents like how Space Marines treat normal people. Like, let them do a lot of hard fighting, then show up at the moment to win.
Right.
They do all the dying. But yeah, that will be part 1 of the Horus Rising. Tune in for part 2, where we see what happens after the false emperor is killed.
Right on.
Nice. Yeah.
Catch y'all later.
Bye bye.